Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we are going to be looking at pathing differences, or the jungle pathing behaviors that separate you from the challenger elite. Now I'm not only talking about early jungle routes and clears and how we actually go about the early game, I'm talking about general practices to approaches, invades, reacting to counter ganking, how you set up your ganks, how you simply move around the map, and how ultimately that all ties together to bring forth a cohesive jungle game plan that lets you take over the map. And if you don't have these good pathing habits, then you're gonna see what happens. I will run you through a couple low, mid, and even low diamond examples of bad pathing practices, show you what they should be doing, and then we have a challenger gameplay example, just a short one to show you when you fix all of these mistakes, how it can look and how it can bring you back into games even if you might think, well, there's nowhere to gank, there's nothing to do, how do I path? And then of course you can snowball that to victory. So as always, please do consider leaving a like and of course subscribing if you do enjoy the content and are excited for more. Don't forget, coaching VODs are available on Patreon, and the second channel has all your gameplay needs. And now without further hesitation, let's begin. So what brought this video on was a coaching session where we were actually laughing at the enemy jungler because he was just waffling and doing the most random things, absolutely horrific time wasting and bad mistakes, and the person who I was coaching didn't punish them, and the enemy Virkayu ended up being really fed and carrying the game. And for us, that was absolutely unacceptable. Now on the face of it, it's absolutely standard stuff. The Virkayu starting solo on the red side, ideally we want a leash, but you can do this with Virkayu. And Volleyball decides instead of doing a 5 camp, he decided in coaching, listen, mid lane's low, top lane's low, I'm actually gonna flex from my red Raptors blue side into a red Raptors Gromp gank. This was great adaptation. Ganks top lane, moves down through the river, and ganks now mid lane. The Virkayu, in this situation, reactively pathing is great, but it's not great if you are truly reacting to the event. Good pathing has good tracking, which means you can foresee what's going to happen and you are moving before it does. And in the event you see this happening as a Virkayu, why are you even beginning to rotate? 100% your mid lane is doomed. So essentially you're either thinking I need to protect the bottom lane scuttle from the Volibear even if that doesn't make sense for him, or just simply finishing my full clear, getting level 4 and then assessing. Instead, because he moves with a bad pretense, all of a sudden he's like, do I go to blue? Do I go to crab? Do I go to blue? Do I go to crab? Obviously crab always wins, but instead of spending the time doing his blue grump and then the crab, or at least doing blue then crab, that time is now lost to the universe. And in doing so, we'll simply be behind on tempo with the Volibear. The thing is now, he goes into the river. Do we go back to base? Do we gank mid lane? Do I gank bottom lane? Do I counter jungle the red side? I can almost hear the toaster burning the bread if you catch my drift. Eventually he decides to wait it out and gank bottom lane, gets himself a kill. But please, ladies and gentlemen, do not results base this. Just because he gets a kill at the end of it does not make what he did efficient. You could have done this way quicker, at least a minute faster. We're going back to base with a full clear crab and 1 gank in over 5 minutes. That's obscene. But don't worry, it gets absolutely worse. Now you would have noticed the missed ganking opportunity from the Volibear in the mid lane. I covered that actually in the previous video. This game had a lot to give. But after that he goes to the bottom lane to pick off the Virkayu's bottom lane. Now Virkayu out of base, as we shift our focus to him, decides to go to his Raptors. Obviously he has the second spawn of the Krugs up as well. Now if he thought the topside crab was still available, he failed simple jungle tracking. Now if you are the Virkayu paying attention to the Volibear's gank, when he should have just kept farming, you would have noticed that he pushed the wave and went to the top side at 17 CS. The next time he shows in the mid lane, he has 33. Scuttle, blue, wolves, and second spawn raptors, because when he ganked top lane in the first instance, he did red raptors grump because he showed top lane with 12 CS and only a red buff. It's pretty obvious that's what he did. So out of base, you see the Volibear, ganking bottom lane and pushing the wave. There's no real need to go to the top scuttle because it's dead. Ideally, his first phase on the map was significantly faster. However, it was slow because bad pathing practices. He could have and should have just gone to the Krugs to secure those nice edge camp level 4, and then he can float through the top lane knowing that his top laner has prio. And you can scan on your approach and simply go and steal the Volibear's second Grom spawn. Because Volibear spent so much time on the map, and yes, he did get kills and was able to push waves, the one thing you have to do in Season 12 is of course counter jungle those crucial experienced camps, the ones that are leveled up, level 4, level 5, level 6. And because the Volibear pushed the wave on the bottom lane, and of course you can see this, you can know straight up you're gonna have at least 25 to 30 seconds before someone in your elo actually spends a gold and gets back to where they should be. If that's of course where they head anyway, because they might just go in the wrong direction. Instead though, while the Volibear does head to his Grump to defend it, obviously, the Virkayu, what did he do? Raptors, Scuttle, moved to mid lane, realized there was an RNG Scuttle spawning, so went back and took that, now decided, I've done Raptors, I better go to the blue side, but my red is spawning. I should go to that. But should I? Okay, I'll go to the red. What am I watching? We were laughing so heavily and then crying because the Virkayu ended up getting fed and winning the game. This sort of early game pathing by a jungler in your low plat, in your gold, in your silver games, and yes, you can be low plat and play like this, they do play like this. This must be punished, and honestly the Volibear sequencing was very, very good at this point, But if you don't take that control, put it in the river, put it in the enemy jungler, and yes, I said that intentionally because you should be obliterating them in 1v1 invades. You should be using your level lead to get dragons and to remove them from the map. The challenger example will show you with Virkayu how to actually do that as well. So what you saw here was a jungler who simply failed to game plan, failed to react appropriately to the information on the map, failed to use the information on the map to his advantage, and simply had no idea where he wanted to path and why. Total fundamental breakdown. However, sometimes you can decide to go to the right place and simply mis-execute because it wasn't the right decision in the first place. You do it fine, but you shouldn't have been doing it. Observe, I am testing, of course, my Kai'Sa jungle again with the fresh buffs. It's always enjoyable. Gonna start on the blue side and do a 3 camp into red because I'm trying a few things out. The Hecarim on the enemy team decides, you know what, I'm gonna do blue and then Grump and then invade. Yeah, but why? You could just full clear and then invade me later. You don't have to invade an off-meta jungler immediately, especially if they're pathing in the opposite direction to you. You also have to pay attention to lane states and what's actually going on the map. In this situation, he invades the red slowly after already having used Smite on the Grump because it's Hecarim. So what Kai'Sa can do is simply walk into the bush, auto Q and make sure to get that red buff, and now the Hecarim could actually use Ghost and try to kill her, but instead decides to gallop away. For some strange reason, didn't realize that the Lissandra mid lane had already killed his mid laner and was pushing the wave, so she'd be there to collapse, and now Kai'Sa gets a kill. This is an absolute donkey invader donkey play. He didn't think anything through, didn't think about what is versus what should be, didn't think about, hey, hold on a second, if I do blue Grump into the red, that gives a Kai'Sa time to do blue side into the red herself. Since when is a Kai'Sa gonna do Raptors and Krugs early and fast? Sometimes the advantage you have versus an off-meta jungler isn't that you can just run into the jungle and kill them. If they path correctly, you're not even gonna be able to do that. It's that you can simply do jungling things faster and better than them. Observe, the Hecarim decided, I'm going to do my red, take the crab, and then gank topside. On the face of it, a noble cause. He knows the Kai'Sa won't be able to match at this stage, and he knows she most likely will take the bottom side crab. The problem is his top laner isn't in lane, so he decides to wait. Now there is waiting and there is waiting, and the second one here is what he's doing, and I don't advocate for that. This is not good patience. If you truly want to sync up with your top laner to the enemy top laner who's pushing the wave for denial, and you simply have to wait this long for it, it's stupid. If you know categorically the Kai'Sa is going to go to the bottom side scuttle because of this early invade, you can simply do red raptors and the top crab and then sync up with your top laner once they've arrived. Don't sit there and wait when you could be doing a camp and then syncing up at the same time just in time to stop their base and make sure you get a kill. Now obviously you have to play this appropriately according to what lanes you have and what jungler you are, but sometimes if it's a little bit later in the game and you don't die in a stupid invade and the enemy jungler's on the bottom side, you can simply go ahead and take their Grump. This of course being the second spawn. However, because we do this and then go to our Krugs, the Jax is kinda low, so we with the LeBlanc decide to go and push that out. The problem is the Kai'Sa has taken the Grump, which was the second spawn, and left a baby of the first spawn wolves, such that if you were to sequence down now, you're kinda screwed. I don't think the Hecarim was thinking about that though. So in a way, he will benefit from trying to not let this wave freeze, but sometimes the lane state is just bad and you can farm your camps, wait for your top laner to get back, and then help them with a dive to unfreeze it. There are other ways to help your laner other than push it out and, as you saw, die to a Lissandra TP because LeBlanc showed up as well. He's absolutely inviting disarray and then decides after respawning to do his blue, sees the Lissandra kinda low mid lane, but doesn't factor in that it's a Lissandra with CC, and the Kai'Sa would be doing her blue side sequencing down because that's all she's been doing, and now you die again. We have the Virkayu who's just waffling, has no idea what he's doing, and ends up in a good position because the jungler doesn't punish him, and then you have the Hecarim who's a bit more decisive with his decisions, they're just absolutely wrong. And as a side note on these invade shenanigans, if you're Fiddlesticks, why are you invading? Just simply do your clear, ward it up, protect your house. Why are you invading a Warwick and now walking through mid lane where they can see you and starting on the red buff? And now you don't chain together your red and raptors for some particular reason, even though you're platinum with 1.8 million points. And because you mess this up, you allow the Warwick to defend his blue side, run straight across and invade you on your blue side because you're sequencing up, and now you're going to be level 2 going to your Krugs. Now let's show the real pathing differences here and look at the challenger example where I'll hint at a little bit of that mid-game pathing to show you what you should be doing and how a good foundation will allow those decisions to be really easy. So much like our comedic Virkayu, this one is going leashless on the red. The difference is the animation Shao is also going leashless except on the blue side, and his team sees everything the Virkayu is doing. It also means because you're going leashless, doing a full clear can prohibit you from actually making good map plays. Therefore, skipping the Krugs to ensure that you can defend your blue side and get on the map at the same time as the enemy jungler, unlike the Virkayu vs Volibear, is of course what we want. So Mr. Big Sword does this Raptor second, they would have known that it was going to happen, floats on down, does the Grump, now thinks, right, which lanes can I gank? That's obviously the plan with this clear, but if nothing is available, immediately flexes onto his blue. Here's where the mind games come in, because the Xin would have thought, hey, I did a full blue side, Viego's gonna maybe cut that 3 camp and gank my bottom lane because they're pushing. I'm going to position for a counter gank, and if not, I can simply execute a lane gank of my own. Good strategy, he covers both bases and is able to get onto the map while knowing his red side will now be protected. Viego in the meantime would have seen this while he was ganking mid lane, so they both get off great ganks. The Viego will now have access to the top crab, knowing the Xin will be able to take the bottom crab. There's no Grom to steal, and he's actually ahead by 1 camp. This means after that you can translate this top lane pressure to a gank before you fall back to your jungle. But because it's high elo, the top laner recognizes this, gets pinged away and backs off. Viego gets nothing. He doesn't hesitate, he doesn't wait. Straight to the Krugs, and because he is timing his actual second camp spawns, he knows the Raptor camp will be up, and if the enemy mid laner has prior and Xin decides to be aggressive, he could lose that, so he stays out and secures that as well. Now look at the timing difference, we're closer to a minute difference between both Viegos, and they've both had 28 CS, except our challenger Viego here has had 1 gank, an attempt at a second gank, and he has sequenced it so that he has 1 tier 2 camp already secured, forsaking the wolf camp for this goal. Absolutely huge. Now the Xin ganks bottom lane again after doing his red side, we can expect this, and this is where good decision making, map understanding, circumventing vision with good wall hugging technique and walking around things you can walk around, understanding where there are wards and where there are not, and simply being patient and not a time waster. This is the big difference between a challenger and high elo jungler versus the 99%. It also means that in games like this where you can see he's looking for the gank bottom lane, nothing happens, falls back to his blue side. It's in games like this where you try to get things going, but you just cannot see them, that they're most beneficial, because you will still be able to eke out leads, advantages, and position yourself to get fed, even if you're not exactly having the success your game plan wanted. Let's observe. So obviously the enemy jungler is going to go back to base, maybe do his blue side, and then look to gank top lane. Viego on the other hand now will have done his blue side and will understand that that will be the goal of the Xin. So instead of just blindly farming his camps or waiting too late to rotate, even when he's down a level, there's no waffling involved. Even if he's reacting to the enemy jungler making this dive, he knew it was going to happen, so was able to seamlessly get to the situation, and whether teams rotate, whether laners show up, whether things go well for you, whether they die and throw, whether you simply have to sometimes back off and give up camps, it doesn't matter. The point is you're putting yourself where you need to be and not letting the enemy jungler just gank your laners for free while you do nothing. You're not letting the Volibear gank all 3 lanes while you walk in between a crab, a raptor camp, and a red buff. That's almost another joke. A red buff, a Viego, and a crab walk into a bar. But our challenger jungler understands this stuff, and obviously not expecting you all to understand how to play like a challenger jungler. I'm just showing you very obvious ways to fix your pathing. And it's not that difficult when you think about it. All of these things are quite simple to fix. A bit of anticipation here, a bit of tracking there, a bit of understanding where you want to go and how. And all of a sudden, you're protecting your jungle camps by conservatively taking your red buff. You see the enemy jungler gank top lane again. You know he's going to move down the river. You know you're going to do the raptor camp and head to the bottom side, so you know that the enemy jungler very easily could look to gank mid lane. You see they're fighting. Position yourself accordingly, shadowing around the back of the map because you cannot walk into your jungle blindly knowing he has a lead at the moment. Wait for your time in the sun. Get that 1 kill, get level 6, get the next kill, do Viego things, and obviously you can do this with any jungler. I very regularly, as Zyra, as Ornn, as Volibear, as Kai'Sa, as anything like that, have to gank from behind like this. You saw it in the Kai'Sa vs Hecarim example. He dove the person because you're anticipating it and watching for it, you will be able to capitalize. It's not over by all means, we still have to take this to the next level. Now don't blindly recall in this situation. Currently the enemy jungler and a lot of their team is just off the map, so you can path in a way that gives you an advantage now and in a minute's time when you might look to fight again. In this case, give the blue to the victor because it's career. If it isn't, secure it yourself. Do the Grump, do the Wolves, and now you have enough gold for Divine Sundra. Yes, you can still go it, and high elo is obviously still preferred, but crit Viego, shield bow, I do recommend that for the majority of you. You know the Xin was just denied a whole bunch and basically got reset off the map. You have completed your mythic and now have a big lead. Where do you think the Xin was going to go? In this situation, topside makes the most sense because the Grump and the Wolves will spawn late. That will mean they're the highest tier camps that he has on the map, his blue buff is spawning and his red buff isn't yet up. It also means he can simply gank the top lane and secure a herald. Our Viego understands this and has decided to base and try and cut him off. Sometimes though, laner prior, things don't work out and you're not able to go in. Bad pathing practitioners might just, coin flip the herald and die and throw a huge lead back in the enemy jungler's favor. Good pathing gods will simply say no. What our Viego does here that our Volibear didn't in a very similar situation is keep that pressure on. I don't care if you see me running across mid lane, I'm invading your red, I'm gonna force this fight, I know I can win it. When you have an item advantage, when you have experience advantage, the enemy jungler should get nothing for free and you should never leave them alone. So if their bottom lane rotates first, and even if he gets Lulu ulted and you just play beautifully to ult off of the wall and kill the Jinx, You do miss the zap, but you're able to kill the Lulu as well. This is a play made by you. This is a play that any jungler can make. Obviously, pay attention to your kid. If I'm Father, I can do the same thing here. Hell, I've made the same plays with Zyra because over the wall, you can do a lot of damage based upon what champion you have. And that's how that pathing impacts your mid game, because now you can fall back to Dragon, fall back to your blue side, go back to base, match their Herald push, prevent them from taking your top side camps, force fights that they don't want, keep the resources that you have under your control, steal the jungle as if it's yours, and now continue to close out the game. I will link the video to that in the description below. But if you fix those mistakes as you saw in the first half of the video, and then bring them together and play like the guy in the second half of the video, you're probably not going to be losing that Herald in the first place, because that would require the enemy jungler to be thinking about an optimized experience, about ganking and then objective kill conversion ratio, whereas the junglers you guys are facing are probably figuring out how to peel a banana. But there you have it, a breakdown of a few bad pathing habits, not obviously everything in the game, but definitely core ones that cause people to have bad jungling games, annoy your laners, and then you just lose. Unless it's the Virkayu and the enemy jungler just doesn't really use the lead, in which case maybe you win, but that's just coin flipping, and we're not about coin flipping, we're about taking leads, getting wins, and climbing on our own terms. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. Don't forget to subscribe for all those juicy Season 12 contents coming up very soon. Keep your pathing straightforward and your beard smooth, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.